good evening to all the Python programmers. Today in this video we are learning the usage of for loops in Python. In the last video we learned how can we use the range function in Python, and I told you that time that this range function is going to be used in the for loops further. So that we are going to learn today what is the syntax of for loop in Python. Like if we say for, how can we write the syntax of for loop? For variable in sequence. Then we have some set of statements that will be executed over here. Now this variable can be any variable. It can be A, B, C, I. You can take any variable here. And this sequence can be list, it can be strings, as list is a group of different types of values. List is a collection of different types of values, and we are going to study lists in the later videos. And here we are discussing about strings. String is we can say some sequence of characters are there that are enclosed in single quotes or double quotes. So if we are taking here for I in, our string is happy, independence, day. Then set of statements will be print I. Now as our program is saved, we are going to run our program. This you can see, it is printing all the characters of that particular string, that is happy, independence, day. But I don't want my output to look like this. I want my output to be horizontal. So for that, what I need to do, here I will use end argument. What I will use? End argument. Now if I run this, you can see the change. Happy, independence, day. Now I want to print this output with the help of tab spacing. How can I print this output with the help of tab spacing? For that, I need to use \t. So if we save this program and if we run this program now, you can check the output. How are we getting the output? Output we are getting with the tab spacing. So for loop is basically used to iterate over a sequence of elements. It is an iterative control statement. That sequence of elements, it can be string, it can be list, it can be any type of sequence. And for loop, when our purpose of executing the loops, we want the same set of statements to be executed repeatedly. That's why we are using loops. So first loop, we are discussing the for loop, in which we have learned that how can we print the sequence of elements using for loop. I is a variable, happy, independence, day is a string. We are printing I, and if by default it will print in new line, but if we want it to be printed in with the help of tab spacing, then we can use the end argument. Now my dear viewers, let us learn that how can we use the range function in for loop. Now we need to learn that how can we use range function in for loop. So for that, for I in range 11, print I. So by default it is going to be printed in the new line. So if we run this, you can check, it is printing the elements starting from 0 up to 10, because we have given range 11. So the stop limit will be 1 less. So here We have not given start limit, so it will start from 0 by default. Step size will be 1 by default. So whatever we have given in those brackets, that is the stop limit. As I told you in the last video, stop limit is mandatory to be mentioned in the for loop. So if we now use end argument over here, comma, end equal to backslash t. Now if we check the output, you can check. Now the output is with the tab spacing. And you know, in for loop, there is a else part. That else is optional. Means else part has nothing to do that whether the statements in the for loop are getting executed or not. Whether the statements are executed or the statements are not executed, else part will always be executed. So here what are we going to do now? So here if we say print rest part of the code. So now if we save this and if we run this, you can check the statements in the for loop, they are executed, but still, as I have informed you that else part is optional, so it is also executing the statement in the else part. It has nothing to do that whether the statements in the for loop, they are getting executed or not. This is the how we can use the for loop in Python. And in for loop, it is quite important to understand the range function. Before for loops, if you don't understand what is range function, then my dear viewers, you can't understand what is for loop. How can we use the for loop in Python? So if we give here like 1, 11, here I have specified start limit as well as a stop limit. So stop will be 10, 1 less than the range specified. So if we run this now, you can check. It is printing the values from 1 to 10. So this was all about the today's video, in which we have learned the usage of for loops, and we have learned that how can we execute the for loop with else, and that else is optional. It is not that if else, like if the condition is true, then the if statement will be executed. If it is false, then the else part will be executed. That else is optional in for. You can use it or you cannot. That's your choice. Thank you.